I'm sorry, guys.
Wait.
Dorn?
Planning to go off by yourself?
So you're this guy named Roddick living on this underdeveloped planet named Roke. You're getting by, chilling with your sassy friends, but there's this terrible epidemic that's been spreading across the land. People are turning to stone, and while there are theories of a cure, that's just what they are. Theories. It gets even worse when people you know start to petrify. So you set off to find this theoretical cure when a couple of mysterious figures show up out of nowhere in bizarre clothing and whisk you away. Turns out this problem is an issue that's been plaguing the galaxy. If you want to help out, that's great, but if you decide to tag along, you're reminded that you'll never get to see your homeland, friends, or family again. You're about to go on a grand adventure spanning the entire star ocean, but you will no longer be allowed to return to your planet, which has not naturally evolved on its own quite enough yet. Yeah, goofy, but pretty badass. An RPG that spans the entire universe really does sound pretty kick-ass. Too bad this game is nothing but a freaking tease, though. After such an epic preface and build-up, telling me to forget any emotional ties to my homeland as the journey ahead of me will be much grander and ultimate, the game proceeds to throw you right back into your very own goddamn homeland for the entire 20-hour game. Yes, there are theoretically aliens out there that threaten the galaxy, but it's up to you to save a few backwater towns by helping out the cheeky locals, beat up some enemies in the caves, collect these worthless piece of shit emblems that belong to a few various different kingdoms, and a whole bunch of other meaningless crap on the very same planet you're supposed to never visit again. And that's just about it. What a lame tease. Alright, the story is a little generic and cliche. Turns out the key to the curse was on your very own home planet, mostly all along. Yeah, there's a decent amount that's been thought out, with 4 different kingdoms and neighboring towns that look good on paper, but it's really little more than an execution of a setup that every other fantasy tale uses. The world is there, but there's not much that sets it apart from other decent games of its type. The characters aren't very standout either. They're well animated, the voice acting works, if the entire voice cast that does every single freaking game in an anime game these days sits well with you, but the base in-game storyline doesn't have them doing anything particularly amazing. They're mostly cut out. There are in-game story sequences which involve frivolous actions that allow your characters to flesh themselves out, like when hot-headed Cirrus tells of his past, or when you go shopping with Ilya for some earrings, but unlike future Star Ocean titles such as The Last Hope, they really hurt the pace of the game. Last Hope had you doing these character interactions between gigantic quests when you're on your spaceship. First Departure has you wandering around entire large towns and buildings every time you just happen to pass one by to hopefully, but not necessarily, start one of these interactions, which just aren't as exciting. A problem that heavily plagues RPGs these days is that they need something to spice up the gameplay so that it's just not mindlessly hitting the X button. This is for either turn-based games or those in real time. Games like Persona 4 have you feeling like you're making strategic battle choices with each encounter, while Star Ocean The Last Hope lets you do the blind side, has the rush mode, and some other nifty stuff. The First Departure, though, nothing. Absolutely nothing. You mash the X button. Sometimes it ends up being a little more like XXXR repeat, but that's it. It is totally mindless, and the battle system does not allow for anything else. This is not an exaggeration at all, and it is a problem that hurts the game. The game is also very easy. Is Star Ocean really bad, though? Not really. Or at least not totally. The back end has a bunch you can play around with. Leveling up gives you character points which you can spend on different attributes, some giving you higher statistics, some contributing to allowing you to perform a variation of item creation with greater success, some that allow you to occasionally move very quickly via random chance when you target a new enemy, and so on. There's a lot, and it's fun. There's a lot to the item creation, which allows you to combine various items to make new items, upgrade them, and so on. All really enjoyable. What is Star Ocean: The First Departure really? I honestly do hate to make such a simplification here, but it's really just a basic anime storyline where you press X a lot. I consider the storyline to be passable, but not nearly one of the best things to come out of Japan. Some of the gameplay, such as navigating the dungeons, feels like filler since there's really nothing to it. The game is thankfully easy enough so that you can just sort of chum your way through to see how the story goes without stressing yourself out too much, but that's about it. What was my main motivation for playing this game? I'll admit it. Name brand and curiosity. The First Departure is actually a PSP remake of the first Star Ocean game, which dropped in Japan in 1996 and was never officially translated into English. The game has been given a complete graphical overhaul and adapts the modified battle system of the PS1 sequel. While I never played the second, I highly enjoyed the third game till the end of time on the PS2 and subsequently had a moderate amount of fun with the fourth, The Last Hope, on the Xbox 360. The First Departure had enough interesting tie-ins with the fourth to keep me motivated, but as far as the game's own merits go, really not that exciting. The First Departure has enough polish and is playable enough for the unpicky RPG fan that likes anything halfway decent, but I wouldn't recommend it to the common person. If you're a big fan of future Star Ocean games though, I suppose you might want to check this out eventually, I guess, if you have nothing better to do. Star Ocean: The First Departure for the PSP receives a 5 out of 10.